I'm gonna start the social medias.
All righty.
And we're live, and we got 1 minute to go.
All right. Welcome, Facebook. Just Jose just whispered in my ear that you are with us and appreciate you so much. We've got Larry Powell with us.
Oh, it's always good to be with you, Alan. And I love your Facebook audience. I'll tell you, they're fantastic.
They are, man. Got the best team on social media.
No doubt.
Social media. Who thought you would carry one of these things and be able to talk to anybody in the world?
Yeah, or
see them,
watch a movie.
FaceTime them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's science fiction. That's stuff that Captain Kirk found on another planet.
Dick Tracy.
That more so even. It's crazy.
We got 10 seconds.
All right, 10 seconds, folks. We'll be right.
From NFL quarterback to Hollywood to the mayor's office, and now behind the mic at KXEX, this is the Alan Autry Show. No retreat.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
What the hell's going on out here? Everybody grabbing out there. Nobody.
That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
So, 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
Free at last! Free at last! Thanks Almighty! We are free at last!
Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX. Call Alan now, 559-899-1550.
Well, you say you want a revolution, you have come to the right place. This is Alan Autry, No Retreat, and I'm so honored and humbled to have all y'all with us from Facebook, radio listeners in my beloved Fresno, Clovis, and surrounding area here in the great Central Valley, the last stronghold of common sense in the state of California, the Central Valley. And it's always great on Wednesday because most Wednesdays, that means I get my good buddy Larry Powell with us, and he is with us today. Welcome, Mr. Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Autry. Listen, love being with you.
I love being with you, Mr. Powell. Heavy on the mister. Going my way over there, brother.
Well, I'm thinking my dad right now.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, how's your mama doing?
Mama's doing good. She's 97 years old. She still drives. She spoke to 250 women the other day. She was a Missouri speech champion. She knows her stuff. When she made it only through 10th grade because she had to take care of an invalid mother, but she absolutely knows a little bit about everything, reads amazing, good stuff. Boy, she's bright.
And a sense of humor. I mean, you're with her, and it's not just me. You know that. She's your mama for a lot of years.
Yeah.
You're with her not more than 15 seconds, and you're belly laughing.
No doubt about it.
She will find something to bend you over laughing.
I've never been depressed a minute in my life because of her.
And we won't get into detail. That would be for Larry and his mama to talk about. But she got some challenging news several years ago, and she has just proceeded. Never skipped a beat. Never saw her get her dauber down, as they used to say.
Yeah.
Never saw her say a word of encouragement. Just cinched it up, went forward, and these are years later, and she's just, he said, she's out driving her car, doing her thing.
Well, Powell to the people coming up here in January. We'll be talking about Mama.
Are you going to have her on?
I'll see if she wants to do that because her voice is a little bit weak right now. So we'll see if she can do that.
Oh, I hope.
I'd love to have her on here.
Well, let me scratch my ear here. I got Jose's earphones on over here. He will not replace these things. Folks, these things are like my holy underwear.
I know what you're getting for Christmas.
Holy boxers. No, everybody's got a favorite thing that they have. Clothing, something they wear. Mine, I got a pair of boxers. They got holes everywhere in them. Kim finally says, you either throw them out or I'm going to throw them out. I'm going to take it back. I'm going to burn them right here in the living room. And you're going to have to explain that to the fire department.
That's good.
So you got rid of them. But but he's had them since he had the radio station. It goes way back to the other station that he had.
Yep.
But these things, the thing pops out, and then Jose goes out and gets a brand new set of earphones. So I'm thinking, hey, this is great.
Yep.
And, you come in brand new. Then I come in the other day, and here's these old ones back on there. Well, Guillermo went live last night at 4 o'clock, and it didn't even have the consideration to put the new ones back in for me. So I got these old ones because I think you got the new ones.
I think I might have the new ones out.
No, there's another pair. Anyway, all right.
These are good. These are good.
Hear about earphones.
They treat their guests really well.
Yes, they do. They do here. It's like family.
That's right.
Like the old uncle you keep in the attic. That's how they treat me. You ever keep Jose like the old uncle up in the attic?
That's
You go see what Uncle Alan wants. See if he wants some cream of wheat this morning for his show.
We'll grind it up for him.
We'll grind it. All right, listen, we wondering where to start, but locally, let's start because there you text me another subject. I sent you some subjects. Send me some subject topics we think folks may be interested in. That's what they do on talk shows, right?
I hope.
You don't want to probably try to break down trigonometry or talking about the weather in Idaho.
I got two guys in Fresno that would understand.
Oh, okay, yeah. We want to try to get talk about things that people are interested in. But here locally, big interest in the new football coach we got, Jeff Tedford. Yep. And Jeff as alumni. Well, let's do a little back history. Why don't you fill folks in on what happened? I never met Kalen DeBoer. He was here for a cup of coffee and about 9 wins, and then he decided the pasture's a lot greener on. But fill us in.
Well, he
what's happened here on the local football.
Came in during COVID, so have a limited season and limited recruiting and a lot of other limitations. Ended up actually having a pretty good year this year, 9-3, and then going to a bowl game. And
Kalen DeBoer was his name. Right?
Kalen DeBoer.
Kalen.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, you've got a situation where the University of Washington opens up, and his name gets put out there. He ends up taking the job, and now we have no coach for the bowl game that we're going to be in, New Mexico bowl game.
Which everyone waits breathlessly for.
That's right.
I know every year I circle that on my calendar.
Listen, it was ranked the 27th best bowl game in the nation.
And I think just so deserving.
No doubt
of that rank.
I'll tell you, I haven't been any colder in my life than in New Mexico.
That's right. That's right above the Omaha Toilet Bowl, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay.
That's right.
Go ahead.
So anyway, he ends up taking the job, taking the quarterback, it looks like. But
he didn't take the quarterback went on his own.
Yeah, he's going. There was no conversation there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But one of the things that
through the transfer portal, which is you've seen on Fan City or whatever that thing is on Dr. Pepper,
Fandale,
or whatever. Yeah.
Well,
Fanville.
There we go. Hey, you know what? As an educator, as someone who teaches ethics, as a pastor, I wonder, is it ethical for you to leave the kids you recruited when you've got the bowl game still to play? I really chafe at that,
Translated, is Kalen DeBoer a using opportunistic stepping stone taking individual coach, of which about 99% of them are.
Yeah,
Come on, let's just
absolutely. I'm not just calling him out.
Yes.
I'm calling every coach out. Notre Dame, their coach heads to LSU. So you see that Oklahoma's coach heads to USC.
I wouldn't be in Kelly's shoes.
Oh, I'll tell you,
you don't leave God's team like that.
He might have a few things to talk about.
Better watch when that plays Alabama and they start blitzing from the outside. And he's going to say, "We picked that up at Notre Dame."
Yeah, that's
why can't we block that here?
Can't do it anymore.
He'd be that big voice from the sky. Yeah. I told you to stay by the Golden Dome.
The way that goes is this is the Lord.
That's right.
But I don't like it what it does to kids.
But Larry, we spoke a little bit walking up here to the studio, and it pains me to say this because I love amateur athletics. I like everything it stands for. I was able to get, about my family background, we were PO, and that was POR. We couldn't
afford the other letters.
Afford the other letter O. And my dad topped out at $2.75 an hour. Mom cleaned houses, making ends meet. I only say that to say this: I couldn't have afforded books to go to a junior college, much less a university. And I was able to get a full ride to University of Pacific, a couple hours up north on the freeway here, 99.
Yep.
And it was that education. I was getting paid. I mean, I'd get and back then, that's another show, but it was back during the Wild Wild West days of the NC2A. That's when SMU got, a few years later in the late 70s, got the death sentence there. But I'd go in every once in a while, there'd be some money in my envelope there in my locker.
Yeah.
Little check there, got a little suit of clothes, got to borrow the car, all the stuff that you're not supposed to do. But that was peanuts, compared to what these kids now, once they allowed players to make money off their own image, it didn't change it forever. There's no such thing as it's a big business. There's no such thing as looking at that full ride educational scholarship and say, man, I'm getting at University of Pacific, Larry. That's not a cheap place.
No, not at all.
That was like back then. I think it was $15,000 a year. So
which is huge.
60,000 back in the mid 70s.
Yeah,
that was unheard of. I couldn't. And I have a degree, although I have a degree in something I know nothing about. I've forgotten everything about it. Physical education major. But, you do get paid. But in today's time, isn't it, if you look at it, like you said, it shows disloyalty, unethical, to not go ahead and play in your role. But do you think if this would be challenged and they ever went to court, they would not prevent those players from leaving whenever they wanted to?
No.
Or the coach leaving?
Not anymore. I think it's a personal integrity I'm looking for. I'm looking for those who say, hey, I committed to these guys and I told them I'd be here for them if they'd come and play for me. So my whole thing is I'm going to be here through the end of that particular time. So, and a cutoff date is after a bowl game. That's an easy cutoff date. Go ahead and take your leave. Go ahead and go. And you had a statement that you called it transfer U, or what did you call it?
Stepping
Stone U. So instead of FSU, Stepping Stone U.
I mean, that's what it is.
It's a great
It
university.
absolutely is.
It is, but it doesn't have the resources of the Pac-12 or the SEC or any of those. So you're always going to be competing for that next level coach who is really good, but hasn't yet made the step to the SEC or the Pac-12 or the Big Ten or wherever, so it will always be this way until you run into guys like, Jeff Tedford, who's here for a while.
Pat Hill. He got offers left and right.
Jim Sweeney.
Stayed loyal. Jim Sweeney stayed loyal to Fresno.
Yep.
But, there's an old country song, Larry. It says, looking for love in all the wrong places. If you're looking for ethics, if you're looking at college football, you're looking at ethics in all the wrong places, which it should be the right place because it's about the student athlete.
Yes.
You were a big champion of that, reminding folks it's not the athlete student.
No.
It's the student athlete.
That's right.
I mean, you've got to understand reality. These two young girls playing basketball at Fresno State that are making the Twins, making millions of dollars off their social media. What does that do to the whole thing? I'm not saying they shouldn't.
No.
I'm kind of
it is what it is now.
I'm kind of torn on this.
Yep.
But all I know is, dadgummit, if it's fine, you got to know going in. It's kind of like a marriage, but you got a prenuptial.
Right.
The coach is going to say, listen, I'm going to be loyal to this university. This is my home. This is where I've always wanted to coach. But if I have a really good season and I get offered a better deal, I have the freedom to take it.
Yeah. I think you need to build into the contract a huge penalty if you don't stay and coach the bowl game.
But could Fresno State then get any of the stepping stone coaches that want to, because there is an upside to a stepping stone coach.
Oh, yeah.
You want to come in there, you want to work your butt off because you don't want to stay in Fresno.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, let's call it what it is.
That is what it is.
As surprising as it is, Fresno,
and as short-sighted as it is.
Fresno is not the preferred destination with some people.
Yep.
They would rather be in Oregon and out in the woods and that sort of thing. And and making 10 times more than what. But you look at Tedford. I was looking at his last contract he had, and I think they said he got about $2 million total, but he had to hit all of these incentives to get that. Win the Mountain West, get so many wins.
Yeah.
It was worth $100,000, $200,000. So when you looked at his base salary, it was slightly less. I believe, if my calculations are correct, was less than $1 million. Now, how can you compete for the great coaches out there in the top echelon Division I if you say, hey, we want to be in the hunt for a national title?
Didn't LSU
when
just
that's
give
all
Kelly
you're paying?
$9 million?
$9 million.
Yeah. Wow.
And again, not every school, granted, is Notre Dame, but you're seeing schools now. I think the gulf between the have and the have-nots are going to widen so much. But the saving grace on getting the good athletes is, I think, the gap between the 5-star athlete and the 3-star is not as significant as it used to be. What
Definitely
do you think?
closed. Absolutely.
Because they're all working year-round. They're going to the camps. They're taking personal trainers. They're taking nutrition seriously.
Yep.
And back in the day, there was a real big gap between the guy that went to USC and your normal recruit that ended up at Fresno State or San Diego State.
Sure.
Big talent gap that you couldn't coach.
But there are more kids playing at a higher level and taking care of themselves, getting personal trainers, all of those kind of things. Parents are into that as well. So you've got a lot more high school athletes that I think may not be labeled a 5-star athlete, but are a 5-star athlete.
Yeah.
And there's so many of them now, and they can't all go to the same school.
Right.
They've got to go around.
And a lot of this 5-star stuff, I did a lot of when my son was playing out at Clovis North. There was a couple of 5-star recruits there. Jacob Daniel was one of them. But what happens in there is, say USC offers him a scholarship. Automatically, Alabama, Texas, Oklahoma, sight unseen, offer him. Just because they never even see him, in person.
Hadn't heard of him.
They're thinking that USC's got him, so we're just going to offer.
Yeah.
Whereas, anyway, it's welcome back, Coach Jeff Tedford from our little broadcast.
Let me tell you,
here.
he's a great guy.
He's a super guy. Isn't
I
he?
love him. Yeah. We're very blessed to have him wanting to come back and having his heart problem getting solved through surgery. And he's in good health. He can recruit the Valley, and we got some great athletes in the Valley. He will have a challenge, but I don't think it'd be too tough a challenge to redo Bulldog Stadium, to get some things done there.
I'm thinking about it. We're going to go to break here, but I saw that. What do you need to do with Bulldog Stadium? Something in the weight room, it's great. It's fine.
Listen, if we're going to play Alabama, we got to do something.
With the stadium, we got to look good. We're on the end of the 54-6 pumping. You got to look good at least, right?
Exactly.
As if Alabama's going to come to Fresno. But you never know.
You never know.
You never know. This is Alan Autry, No Retreat with Larry Powell. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Jussie Smollett. I want to say Jussie, not Jesse, because up until last night, I thought it was Jussie Smollett. Jussie Smollett Trial. And, boy, when you think things couldn't get a little weirder, they did. This is Alan Autry, No Retreat. We'll be right back. Yeah, it's he must be feeling good.
Mm-hmm. He is.
The procedure must have really worked well. And
yeah, really did work. Good. So Jeff Tedford was my number one choice as soon as I found out. Boy, I am glad they moved as fast as they did, because they could have dragged this out even longer. So credit to the university president and to the athletic director for getting it done. The community will respond to Jeff very, very well. You're going to have a lot of energy.
You know what I'd do if I was Fresno State, the AD, and the president? How much is the president really into football like the last president?
Based on what I've heard him say, I think he is.
Okay.
Yes.
You got to have that, because
you do.
The fact that you got 16 other sports, and football sucks up a lot of resources.
It does,
but it also gives a lot of resources. If you didn't have it, and my fear is what's going to happen here at Fresno someday is like that happened in UOP when I was there, when they finally got
rid of it,
the board in there, and just killed football.
Yeah,
much to my chagrin. had a great history. Amos
But it keeps
Alonso
all your
Stagg
records
there.
intact.
What?
Alan. Keeps all your records
Yeah,
intact.
including mine for interceptions. I wish they could scrub that from the. Everything's on computer now. Can't you just scrub that from the website? I think
Boy.
get Hillary Clinton's folks.
You'll
if
have
they
to
can go in
hire
there.
somebody to go in. Talk about hackers.
Yes, I love those hackers. They can get rid of some of those stats that I had there. But the game's changed.
It has.
Larry. It's big business now, and it's to quote a tired old cliche, but very appropriate in this discussion. It is what it is.
Yep.
And I don't ever see it, retreating. I can see it
Not going
becoming
back.
more super conference stuff.
Right.
And then, so that's why I think there should be, like the AFL came along with NFL, there should be a competitor to the NC2A.
Right.
Mountain West conferences, all these other conferences that are not going to break away, establish your own identity with your own brand of football.
Yep.
Maybe, adopt a few rules, change it to make it more exciting.
Sure.
And you just build up. I think people will really go for that. And the AFL eventually got so good because the controversy was, hey, our champion could be
We end
your
up
champion.
with a Super Bowl.
You got the Super. NFL had to pay attention to them.
Yep.
And
Yep.
you could just grow those conferences and give it its own identity.
Yep.
And you'd have your 13-0 champion Fresno State.
Yep.
Or,
Cincinnati.
Appalachia. Or Cincinnati. Yeah.
Yep.
But Cincinnati's got a little taste of it now.
Yeah, they do.
Or so they'll probably stay over there.
Well, you know what NC2A stands for? No clue at all. So,
I like that.
Yeah. That's unfortunately that's kind of the way they were for a long time.
You got 30 seconds.
So,
All righty.
So they ended up, pretty much doing what they wanted instead of really looking out there. What do we need to do to take care of our folks that are members?
Mm-hmm.
And you end up with some of the crazy things you have.
Well, the bigger you get, the more money you get, and then you start liking that power.
10 seconds.
It's the nature of human beings and institutions.
Yep.
All right, 3 seconds.
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk radio.
There's a train a-coming.
Welcome back to Alan Autry No Retreat. And it is Wednesday here in Fresno, broadcasting live from the wonderful Manchester Center, from our little enclave up here on the second floor. We were going to go with Jussie Smollett, but that music has got me in a different mood. I was going to go to the Biden's poll numbers, but that music got me in a different mood. Larry?
That's good music.
Let's talk about taking a vacation.
I'm ready.
Where the waves gently hit the rocks.
Yeah.
We have a nice hotel room. The family's together.
Yeah. Then we're wearing a mask out there eating dinner.
Yes. All right, folks. Enough of the nonsense. Before we get to Jussie Smollett, have you seen Biden's poll numbers?
Yeah, we were sharing those a little earlier.
Yikes. Ooh. No, the latest one come out is, even though it wasn't, folks, a approval rating as such, the question was, do you want Joe Biden to run again in 2024? And I forget the polling organization, Trafalgar Group, I think it was, but I may be wrong there. But it was reputable. Both the left and the right media reported on it. But only 22%
Wow.
of the people want Biden to run. And my question is, what in the heck is in the minds of that 22%?
That's a flip in the way that you look at it.
What's wrong with those folks?
Did they miss it that
That's
bad?
a little one. That's more than 1 out of 5 human beings that you ask going, how do you think Joe should run when he's 83 years old? He looks now. You bet. I'm on the Biden train, man. America's going in the right direction with old Biden as the engineer. Go, Joe. Woo!
Well, a 44% turnout gets him reelected at 22%.
But then his running mate.
Wow.
How can you be at Kamala Harris at 12%? 12% of the people, and these are not Republicans, these Republicans, Democrats. I don't even know. I heard one poll said with independents, you can't even measure the positive number. It's in like the high 90s that don't want her to run again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You can't even, and I have never heard of a number coming out of any poll. You know, there's been some pretty unpopular vice presidents. Spiro Agnew comes to mind. But Spiro Agnew at the height of the Watergate crisis
Had at least 13%.
Bro, no, I remember it clearly. It was like at 39.
Oh, yeah. He was in the 30s.
And remember that ever so popular Dan Quayle. Dan Quayle at the height of the Bush 1 presidency, he was like in the 40s. And you get this, and it just, my goodness. And sometimes as a talk show host, at least me, I do, I feel kind of sorry I feel more sorry for the country, because you have to, if you take on this job, we talk about everything, but we talk a lot of politics. Why? Because it's going to affect the future of this country. Are we going to have a country who places liberty and freedom as our guiding principles or not? Are we going to have a big, obtrusive, neo-Marxist type state, which is where these Kamala Harris, I want to keep calling her Emmy Lou Harris. I'm sorry, Emmy Lou. I'm just getting old. I got to watch that. You know how you get it in the head?
Yeah.
You just say, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say it. But you look at Kamala Harris, and you have to point these things out. She's so overmatched for this job. She's it doesn't look like she's even interested, Larry, in being good at it. She almost is like, I want to be number one. That's what appears to me. I have no interest in being a side dish that wasn't ordered here. And when she was told to go, he named her the border czar. I don't know if that just came out of Joe, which things do, and she was not informed, or she was informed prior, and then she thought about it and says, I'm just not going to go. I'm not going to be your border czarette, and until you find a gender neutral term for czar, because that denotes a male. And every czar prior to this was male.
Yep.
Haven't had a female czar. I don't know what her reason for refusing that. She just refused to go. Okay, let's move on to Mr. Jussie Smollett, and that is spelled Jussie. I know I'm not the only one out there, but call him Jussie Smollett. I've never really met or heard of a Jussie, but out of all respect for Jussie, is it Smollett or Smollett?
Smollett.
Smollett?
Yeah, it should be Smollett, but...
What, do you know the family?
Personally.
Okay, it's Smollett.
I know the Smollett family.
You know Smollett very well. Well, Mr. Smollett is on trial, took the stand, Larry, and proceeded to defend himself, and still standing by the by his rendition of the events is that he was mugged and beaten by two MAGA hat wearing white supremacists, and he, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary, he's sticking by that. Why do you think he's doing it? What's your take on it?
Well, in America anymore, if you put out the wrong information long enough, a number of people will start believing it. And there's a thing called inculcation, and that's a message that is repeated over and over. Pretty soon, whether true or not, is believed.
You get inculcated.
Yeah, inculcated. That's correct.
You do not want to be inculcated.
Right? And so I'm assuming that somebody's advised him to just take that and run with it. You're in a very liberal area where you're on trial.
Very good. That's a good point.
So,
the DA didn't even want to prosecute.
No,
Kim Fox just said it.
Yeah, they're looking for a way to get him off. So if he can give it to them, where it's questionable, I think that's kind of where he's shooting.
Is there kind of some validity in what you're saying? I ever thought about it? To say that if I'm not comparing Jussie Smollett to O.J. Simpson, but in the vein and in the context of what you're saying, when you see that happen, couldn't you say with some relative accuracy that if O.J. could get off, anything could happen?
Absolutely.
There's no preponderance of evidence that ensures you're going to have an outcome that's commensurate with the amount of evidence that's on there.
Well, jury nullification is something that has been around for a long time. We don't talk about it a lot, but a jury can be instructed by the judge to do certain things, follow certain procedures, but it doesn't mean they have to when they vote in that private ballot in that jury room. And they can nullify a whole lot of verdicts that are pretty obvious to everybody else.
And you can do all the juror screening you want. People have their own beliefs. They say they come in, especially like this case. If you come in and say, never heard a thing about it, number one, they're lying, or number two, they're not very bright, or they're not informed at all if they haven't just heard tangentially about this case. And they just want to be on it to either convict him or get him off.
Yep.
That's the imperfections of juries, but still the best system. You don't want some...
It's the best of a bad system.
Best. Yes. See, I got a little different take on this because Jussie and I, we share a common occupation, both actors. And, if you ask any actor, over 90% of them, I would say, you ask them, what do you really want to do? Over 90% of them says, well, I really like to direct. I want to direct.
Interesting.
Most actors never get a chance to do that.
Yeah.
And every actor pretty much has a script, usually unfinished, but every actor's writing a script, usually to showcase their abundance of talent.
Yes.
Their inner Emmy and Oscar that they haven't been able to express heretofore because
they're doing somebody else's work.
The Hollywood community just doesn't recognize it, that Emmy that's within or the Oscars there. So they haven't been given the opportunity of the script. So they're going to write it for themselves. But I'm looking at this thing. I said, Jussie, if this is the end of the line in acting, Jussie he got to do it. He got to write the script.
Yes.
For these Nigerian fellows his friends, and it wasn't a very good script, but he wrote it. Okay, walking, exterior apartment, 2 a.m. in New York. It's a cold, blustery night. The lone person is walking down the sidewalk when suddenly 2 men appear from the shadows and start attacking him. That's a script.
There was an X out in the margin that said, white guy's not available.
White guy's not available. Exactly. So you're right. He's writing the script there. And then, if he's the boss of this production, he gets to write it. Then he gets to direct it. Here's what I want you to do. But it all fell apart in casting. Because if you have an unhappy, number one, if you're going to cast white MAGA extremist, terrorist, homophobic male Christians, you don't want to hire 2 black Nigerian bodybuilders. So you blew it in casting. So you didn't cast it properly. You didn't write it properly. You didn't direct it properly. And then the noose around the neck, a little too much.
Yeah, a little over the top.
How many times have you been to a movie and you see that, you go, oh, that would never happen.
That would never happen. Exactly.
So he should have discarded the noose, in the thing. But, and then another thing, he writes. One thing you learn, and Alec Baldwin found this out the hard way, you don't want to get your cast mad. So what's he pay him, $3,500? That wasn't per Nigerian MAGA hitman. That was $3,500 between them. And then, being the businessman he is, and this is where it gets me, he wrote on the check, on memo, for nutrition and fitness, which means he was going to probably try to write it off. But on his income tax. And you could just see him go, what a great script. I'm going to get my job back on Empire. I'm going to be all over. Robin Roberts is going to get the interview. Don Lemon loves me right now. I've got this all set up. And then on top of that, I know I got to pay him $3,500. But hey, I can write this off. I'm income tax and nutrition and fitness. And then the actors, you tick them off because the last thing actors want to do is work at night.
Exactly.
I'm telling you, and Jussie Smollett should have known that. And you don't want to, have them do the scene at night at 2 a.m. in freezing cold. So you got, disgruntled actors showing up who don't like the script, are underpaid, and it goes right. Surprise, surprise, they decide to turn on you. The producer.
A guy named Smart said miss by that much.
But Jussie he got to live the actor's dream. If it ends here for him, if he never works again, he got to act. He got to write He got to direct. He got to be the producer on one little short film that he'll be able to show that will be run forever in infamy, along with Gone with the Wind and Forrest Gump. Will be the Ballad of Jussie Smollett.
Yes.
Yes, sir. All right, we're going to take a quick break.
Jussie Smollett rerun. They'll be going.
Yeah, it's but you know, you bring up a good point. This is not a slam dunk with all the evidence. No, this guy could get off. When we come back, we're going to talk about OCA's take on the crime spike. She says there's no crime going on. That's a figment of our imagination. That is a far-right conspiracy tied to the January 6th attack. When we come back, we're going to talk about that. And also, are we close to war with Russia? If you look at things right now, I'm a little uneasy, and I think you should be too. We have a president that's calling out Putin, and no, that's nothing to fool around with. This is Alan Autry, No Retreat. We'll be right back. No, you took this guy. I mean, you look at it. If it wasn't so sad on so many levels,
I know.
It's almost like a Three Stooges episode. Yeah. Hey, Mo, you know what are we supposed to do again? We're supposed to put the noose around his neck? You imbecile. I told you this 20 times.
I know.
But I tell you, the kid can act. You see him. Folks, I've tried in acting class. I've tried in scenes where you're supposed to cry. You're supposed to get, I've gotten a little bit of moisture going. I've never been able.
Oh, there was one time. That was in Victory by Submission at the funeral.
Not full tears down the cheek.
No, but
I'm talking full tears down the cheek.
That was really good, Alan. I'm telling you. And folks, listen, you can catch Victory by Submission on Prime Time, Prime Video,
something.
Prime Video,
Amazon.
There are a whole lot of places. I went and watched it again the other day and was absolutely blown away.
Thank you for that text, bud.
The music was fantastic. The acting was superior. And I'll tell you what, you really get into the lives of these people. I thought it was really good.
The edits we made were
fantastic. I'd really recommend folks get in. It's got a decent preacher in it too. So.
Oh man. And Mr. Larry Powell played Buford Johnson. That's an inside local joke on two of the finest
pastors here
in town that have gone to be with Jesus. But and people that are inside get that. Most people.
But I'm telling you, folks, check it out. Victory by Submission. It's superior. Yeah, it's a feel good movie. You'll say, I'm so glad I watched it. Get a group together.
Yeah.
Get it on.
Appreciate that, Larry. Thank you.
Stuff.
That's unprompted.
It is definitely unprompted.
Larry's my friend, but
did I read that cue card correctly, Hal?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, I agree.
No cue cards here.
Although I did agree to buy lunch. Right, Larry.
Yeah. It was really good, though, Alan. I'm telling you.
Thanks, Larry.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It was a big group effort. Everybody came through.
Yeah.
Cast and crew.
But the cuts and the edits and stuff were
1 minute.
Phenomenal. They were really. My wife and I watched it
again. The
again.
device with the sports writer.
Oh,
with Greg really worked.
Outstanding.
Yeah, he did really good.
That was good. It was good.
All right.
$30.
All right. 30 seconds, Facebook. We'll be back on radio. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoy it, please tell your friends. Join in. Appreciate it.
$10.
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX. Call Alan now, 559-899-1550.
And welcome back to Alan Autry No Retreat Sky Pilot. That's my stuntman Jeff Dashnaw's favorite song. Yeah, that boy could sing. He's on the movie set all the time. He'd break into that. And also, there's The Devil in the Bottle by T.G. Shepherd.
Oh, yeah.
He had some great voice for a stunt guy. Well, great voice for anybody. Just a good singer. Jeff Dashnaw, big shout out to him. He and his kids, top stuntmen in the business. Stuntmen in the business. Still call them that, don't you?
Yes,
Stunt person.
Yep.
They're not birthing persons.
Stunters.
Stunt birthing persons. Okay. So we got, 14 minutes left. Subject to go to. I teased the OCA come out and said, this rising crime is really out of, the fear of it is unwarranted. There's not a spike in crime. When statistics all over, they're setting a new record in Chicago for murders. We're closing here in Fresno on an all-time murder high in the 90s. In L.A., it's totally out of control all across the country. Why in the world would she make that kind of statement? We have a graphic. We're not going to put it up, but maybe tomorrow it just, gives her full quote. And there's an audio thing, but we don't, trust me, this is what she said, as absurd as it sounds. She did say this. This is not me making this up because I disagree with her politics so much. Larry, does she just think people are not going to do their homework? That the people who have been affected by this crime are going to go, oh, okay, my brother was killed, but it's not going up. Oh, my business was destroyed and burnt down, but it's not going up.
Right.
It's my imagination. Where do you think she comes from?
Well, it's like we talked about before.
Inculcation?
You say something long enough, people will believe it. And unfortunately, I think there's a fear to speak up now as well. And I think we're breaking that a little bit. And,
I think so.
And finally getting to a point that somebody once said to me that no matter how you package garbage, it's still garbage and it still smells. And the American people know when they are looking at garbage. Anyone in America knows now that crime is at an all-time high in a lot of ways. There's a high fear. We have to do something to get back to
what
the
does
safety.
she gain from this politically?
Yeah.
I mean, does she, her and Omar came out and said, I want all prisons shut down. Now, she was took to task by a liberal network. Going, you mean you want to let child molesters out here? And she was left stuttering. Well, I didn't mean. Well, of course we keep those. She says no. To credit to the interviewer, it was a far left dude. Said no. You said right here, shut them all down. And she goes, of course I would have to take it case by case with the violent.
Isn't that what the judges do?
Well, exactly. And you know what her criteria would be. If it doesn't happen to me or my relative, it doesn't exist. Yeah. So I don't care about it. Well, this guy murdered your entire family.
Yep.
They deserve to go free. And then you have that DA, Larry, from I forget from where, Chicago, said, there's going to be people get killed because of my policies. But I still think the motive and the policy is the correct one.
Remember the old story about the politician who was called out for lying? He says, yeah, I know, but hear me out. And that's kind of the way this works. But you know what she's doing it for? It helps her from her perspective for defund the police. If crime is going down, you don't need as many policemen.
But how? I mean, the arrogance
of
that to believe that people will see all of this happening on the news reports. They feel it in their own communities because it hits so close to them, if not to them, literally, the crime happens to them. They think because she says this isn't happening. I'm reminded of what our good friend Peter Mihas, God rest his soul. He says, don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining.
Yeah, exactly.
When are the people, even in her own district, when are they going to? I'd like to get the breakdown of that district. That's got to be really a group of people you'd want to just.
We ought to look that up.
Hang out with a party with.
But when you think about it. We end up with a lot of folks. If you read the Bible, it says real simply that right becomes wrong and wrong becomes right. And so she's kind of fulfilling what I think are some prophecies in the Bible that say anything you want. It's your end goal is more important than anything else. and it doesn't matter how you get there. And I'm so opposed to that. We have to get back to civility. We have to get back to talking to each other even when we disagree. We have to get back to the point where Americans used to be. We used to disagree with the other party, and you'd go out to dinner together afterwards. You know, you had positions, but we had so many folks closer to the middle than we have now. And we've got this barbell effect where everybody's out on the fringes. But I'm telling you what, that barbell is getting thicker in the middle, where a lot of folks are saying, wait a minute, time out. It's time for us to start taking back America as we knew it, where people have a chance to become successful if they're willing to put the hard work in to be successful. Some of the things we've been told are not true. And, you know, think about all of the African Americans who have said, I have a great life now because I chose to work hard and become successful.
This country gave me a pathway to do that.
And they're being discounted. Their voices are discounted because it doesn't meet a certain narrative. And that's really unfortunate.
Isn't this like the spirit of your show, Pal to the People? It's going to be debuting when?
In January. January 1.
That's kind of the spirit of your show, is it not?
Civility is always in style.
It doesn't mean you don't do hard-hitting stuff.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to have people who disagree with each other, but we're going to disagree agreeably, you know, that we can still like each other. And for me personally, as a Christian and as a pastor, how in the world can I disagree with someone and dislike them at the same time? And then I've just discounted my ability to share the Lord and who I am in the Lord and who they can be and the life that they can have that is free from a lot of depression, free from a lot of guilt, free from a lot of other things. So we got to be talking to each other. We're not talking enough.
Larry, just thinking on that topic, you know, we can think back not too long ago when a candidate from either party, Democrat or Republican Party, was going through the primaries. They were opened up pretty good by the respective parties. And those folks were looking for certain qualities in individual leadership, charisma. But one of the qualities that both parties pretty much insisted on was, they were asked a question, what makes you think you can reach across the aisle and work with the other party and get things done?
Yep.
And that goes back, you know, Clinton and Gingrich. You had Reagan and Tip O'Neill. You had it, that was part of the American political process.
In California, you had Ken Maddie.
Yes, and Willie Brown and Ken Maddie working together, and good things came out of that. And then I think social media had a lot to do with it, probably.
Right.
But that's all changed.
It has.
Now it's pretty much Fox News and CNN they control the politicians.
Yep.
Because they're the ones that get embellished on it and have their agendas. And you know, Republican wants to get their word out, they run over to Fox, and Democrat wants to get their word out, they run over to CNN.
Yep.
And they get enough padding, if you will, that makes them feel good. They firm up their base. And you're looking at what it's done to the country, this toxic politics that's out there. And I have a saying, but I would advise politicians, they really want to make a difference, they want to go into public service, to run on, and if you're blessed enough to win, that you go in with unshakable principles and flexible politics. I said, well, what do you mean by that? Let's just throw a couple out there. Shakable principles are pretty much embodied in that Constitution.
Right.
You believe in everyone's right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness.
Yep.
If you're running for, say, the mayor, you believe that a little baby born at the old University Medical Center out there is just as precious as one born out at St. Agnes.
Right.
And they deserve the same chance and equality of life.
Yep.
And every kid in every neighborhood deserves the same opportunity to succeed in America. That's an unshakable principle, a fair shake for everybody, right?
Yep.
Then you get it, and then the flexible politics are, you know, I believe that the private sector, more often than not, does a better job in running things than the federal government or government in general, local government or state government. So with every opportunity, you try to bring in the private sector. But I also know, like revitalizing downtown, it's been neglected for so long, you're not going to get to where you need to be without public-private partnerships.
Correct.
So that's a politically flexible attitude I hope I demonstrated as a mayor. That didn't that didn't violate my sacred principles. And I think that's what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
You can debate the dickens out of things. You can have heated debate. But what we're going to do, we're not going to call people names. We can joke around.
Yeah, exactly.
But we're not going to call, vicious names, which ends dialogue. When you call somebody a stupid idiot, or as the president called the people who didn't support, his COVID mandate as Neanderthals, where do you go from that? It takes a big, strong individual.
You pretty much limited your options,
And that's kind of new. That's kind of new to the American political scene.
Yep. I have the same kind of saying that you have. Mine is you hold on principles and you give on preferences. So I may not, the kind of car I buy, for example, can be a Chevy, a Ford, or whatever. The color doesn't matter as much. So that's a preference on the color. So I've got to learn to give on preferences, but we hold preferences oftentimes that are not principles of life in just as high a regard as the principle of life. And you can't do that, and so we say, if you're not a conservative or you're not a far left liberal like I am, whichever you are, then I can't be a friend with you. I can't talk to you. And boy, that is separating. The whole thing that's going on in America is pushing us apart from each other. And you remember what was said, that the destruction of America is going to come within, not from outside. And I think we really need to understand that we're doing it to ourselves, and we're going to have a really tough consequence for all of our folks, our kids and grandkids, because we stopped getting along when we disagree. We have to get along when you disagree.
I learned a big lesson on that line of thinking there, Larry. I have a good friend since grammar school, 4th grade, and he is just a far left liberal, and I'm I'm an independent, I'm a conservative guy, and man, he just hated Trump. I didn't agree with some of the stuff Trump did, but his policies,
right?
How he did it, but I agree with what he did a lot of it. But we used to go and have these debates, and then it would run its course, and then we would talk about, deep, hard, heated debates. To him saying, Hoss, I don't think I can eat. I don't know about you. I don't know if I can be around this sort of thing. And then we both love movies, so we start talking about movies, Fresno State football, the NFL, life in general, kids, and love, because he's always been great with kids. He didn't have any of his own. He was always great with kids, and just talking about life in general. And it was work on both our parts, but we had this history together, and we were able to get past the political thing and talk about other things. And I realized, this is the way it should be, but you got to work at it.
Absolutely. It's like marriage.
You've got to work at it. You got to say to yourself, look, when you're around someone who disagrees with you, hang in there.
Yes.
Keep the conversation going.
Yep.
Try to, at the right time, change the conversation. We all have friends that are on the left, and it's somewhere in there going, well, enough about Biden's poll numbers, how much you hate Trump. How's your kids doing?
Yeah, exactly.
Are they still playing travel ball? They still playing that baseball travel ball? Yes. Well, man, what do you think about? But it takes work, doesn't it?
Americans have more in common than they have apart.
But we're
not talking about that anymore.
But we can get so offended out of a conversation.
Yes.
And my friend Willard Harrell, running back for the Packers, who told me he's had strained relationships with lifelong friends over politics over the last 4 or 5 years. And you go from, a divisive president in terms of laying it out there to another divisive president with Joe Biden, just as divisive, just the same type of rhetoric. And you're looking for somebody to stand up with some gravitas, with some kind of power, saying, look, I don't agree with everything over here. I don't agree with everything over there. But the American people are expecting us to come together, work together, and get something done.
Absolutely.
And we're not going to do it by name calling. And where do you go, though, to get that type of message out?
70% of Americans live in the middle.
Yeah, but where do you go?
They push.
You're not going to go to Fox or CNN.
No, you know.
Fox, CNN used to have Crossfire. You can't.
Which was really good.
And Fox used to have Kennedy and Combs.
Yes.
That's gone.
Yep.
You don't have expressing of opposing ideas with people that can really articulate it from both sides on any of those networks.
Not at all anymore.
And you wonder, who's going to step up. And I heard some rumblings at CNN the major shareholder there is not happy with what the direction of CNN. They're getting rid of some of their stars there, so we could see something happen here. Well, that music comes on. It means we got to hit the trail, folks. God bless you. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate you so much. And the good Lord willing, Creek Don't Rise. We'll be here on Thursday. Hopefully, we're going to have young Matt White with us. God bless you and love y'all. Bye-bye now. Facebook folks, love you so much. I got to get going. My wife and I got to pick up our grandkid at school. He gets out early today.